Hello, sir.
Hello. So today
Alex.
we're going to look at Eugene Berger, and this is really it's our third look at Eugene Berger. The first two we moved through the earlier stages of Eugene, moved to a more developed Eugene, and then today we're going to look at the close-up magic and really the in my opinion, the best magic of Eugene's. I love all the close-up stuff. We did a little bit of the stage stuff in the last one, or we looked at a stage piece in the last one. But in this one, it's all close-up magic and tableside magic, and you'll get a real good look at what it was like to be with Eugene Berger when he was performing basically tableside. Because you remember in the last couple of episodes, we were looking at Eugene at the restaurant that he worked. We mentioned that he worked in the lounge in the downstairs area. He also worked tableside, but it was a very specific manner that he used to go about this thing. He would be invited. He would have the maitre d', he would have the waiter basically ask a group of people, or they would request Eugene, so that when dessert was dropped, Eugene would be invited, they bring a chair, and Eugene would sit down and join the people, which is pretty wonderful.
I just got to tell y'all, hearing Alex say that really takes me back to when I was hearing that this was an opportunity of choice when I was a teenager. And I never considered such a thing, right? We thought that as a strolling artist, you're some lower form of life, and this is the way it is. And then reading when Eugene was talking about that, I first went, no, that's not possible. And then, of course, I realized it's not possible to work without it. Not really. Like once you take Eugene's advice, you don't want to go back.
And it came out of a real world situation where he said, I'm never going to have this happen again, right? He was working behind the bar. Everything's going great. Everyone's laughing. All the jokes are hitting. All the tricks are hitting. It's working. And then, he moved down the bar and he started doing magic for this couple that was sitting there. And he got like maybe a couple sentences into his presentation. And this guy looks up at Eugene and just says to me, we were having a conversation. Eugene just said, ouch, that hurt me. I wanted to push a button and make myself disappear. I didn't want to be there. I felt horrible. I just stepped on these people's evening, and I don't ever want that to happen again. And that's when he figured out this gambit that is a great way to go about it. Be invited everywhere you go.
What's beautiful about it is that one piece of advice, I think, did more for generations of close-up workers to help them understand how the effect is really created. Because, questions like how an audience pays you or a client pays you and what they expect from you and how they treat you all have an awful lot to do with how the audience perceives you. And what you begin to realize when you're a younger performer and you hear Eugene saying this, you go, well, I'm not going to be able to get them to do that. I'm not going to be able to get them to invite me. I'm not going to be able to get them to let me sit. All these kinds of questions, you begin to realize that it's too late with these clients. You have essentially started by creating and setting up the whole situation against your advantage from the very beginning, so that by the time it's all pre-established. And so I just remember, in my desire to learn to live what Eugene's advice was, I had to change how I handled every aspect of talking to clients, booking the show, everything, in order to get to that one thing. So it's this instance where this one piece of advice has so much wisdom packed into it. Sort of like Erdnase in that way. It's like, how can one line have the whole world in it? Well, Eugene only being invited to perform and insisting on it, there's an awful lot of things you got to insist on and make happen in order for that to be just the natural
and it becomes a completely different relationship with the venue that you're working, right, with all the people that are there. I've noticed when I heard that, I was like, well, why would you do it any other way? And when I work restaurants, I have the wait staff grab me and introduce me at tables, and I'm standing. I don't join them seated. I'm happy to stand, but I have the wait staff is very in tune with what their folks want and what I want, and it's a party. I end up doing magic for them as much as I'm doing magic for all of the people that are at the restaurant eating, because they are requesting the days to come and hang out when the magic guy's there, because it's all of us in it together. and it becomes a whole thing. You know, I'm happy to split my tips with everybody. I'm happy to just make it so it just seems like we're all in it together, so we can just make sure everybody sees good magic. You know, it's really the
And
goal.
so,
And it changed everything.
and you're
Changed
talking
everything.
now about being generous with your fellow wait staff and the people that decide whether or not, you're on their turf. And either they're
That's
happy to
right.
see you and they look at you as a person who helps them and contributes to their life, or they look at you as another obstacle in their very busy job. So,
And you're an
and
adversary.
and,
That's
and
right.
again, if you've gotten yourself in a situation where the $20 seems the gratuities, the $20 gratuity that you may have, if it seems to you that you perhaps that's so important that you should consider at least sharing that with your wait staff, I think that's got to be reconsidered. That's just another thing. I mean, because you're like that person. I remember once I worked at a McDonald's for like 4 days, and the problem came because I didn't go back to work for 2 more days. I was off work for 2 days, and that was long enough. You know,
Long enough to think about it and go, I'm not
no, it
doing
was
that
long
ever
enough
again.
in that environment for me to become an for me to be easy to politic against. So what I'm suggesting
Gotcha.
is that you couldn't
Yeah.
be any more of an outsider at a restaurant. You show up for one night,
Mhm.
maybe you'll be back next week on the same night, but everyone who's there every day with the manager on Tuesday night, on Wednesday night, if you just aren't great, there's a good reason for people to want to get rid of you. They're going to try and get rid of you. They're going to tell their boss everything they can think of. It's best for you to really consider everyone there to be your essential partner for life. Let's get into Eugene. We can talk about this all day.
Yeah, let's do that. Yeah, we could talk about this stuff all day. Totally. So let's
And hello again to you all.
take a look at
That's
this. This is Eugene again joining table side, right?
Well, I'm going
so
to
let's
show you
let's take a
something
look.
really quite amazing. Suzanne, let me ask you, do you play cards?
Not very often.
Perfect. I hate it when they play cards. Here's what we'll do, Suzanne. I will deal the cards one at a time slowly. And on impulse, you tell me when to stop. And you can play as hard to get as you want. And she is.
Stop.
Look at the card, show it to everyone. Now, if I took your card, which, golly, I just did, and if I put it on top of the deck, you would know exactly where it is. Yeah. If I put it on the bottom, you'd also know, but when I cut the cards, it goes in the center. But the spirits know. Do you believe in spirits?
Yes.
Good, because I hate doing this with agnostics. Spirits, show us Suzanne's card now. Tell them to go back.
Go back.
Suzanne, you take the card, you take the whole deck, and at these prices, it's always the right card. Show them.
Alex, I want to ask you a question because I know that you're an expert on a lot of ways of doing haunted pack animations, and I know you authored our congregation training on animations and levitations using modern methods. Now, Eugene's not using a terribly modern method. He's using a pretty neoclassical method that he put in print probably by the end of the '80s or the early '90s at the latest.
That's about right. Yep.
And this was so magical and so beautiful and so robust an effect, right? It's hard for me to imagine that the ease and simplicity of modern methods get you all of what happened there. What's your take?
The modern methods definitely lets you feel more bulletproof in a lot of different ways. And Eugene's using like you said, it's a very old school method. If you're not handling it properly, you could get caught, right? And I don't know if you know, but he's doing that whole thing with the deck on the back of his hand.
And you're saying that alone
and that's
is hard.
That alone is hard. So he's doing that along with a secret method, and all these things are happening. There's a delicate little dance that's happening there. I spent a lot of time working on that one, and it is its own beast. But it doesn't mean that it's the wrong one. It just is the one that it's not the one that I gravitated towards, but I think it's awesome.
My own question to you is,
yeah.
I know it's difficult. I know that it's difficult
Mm-hmm.
for reasons that aren't technique, right? It's thing you got to
Mm-hmm.
make sure it looks right and all this kind of stuff. But there's
That's right.
similar difficulties with the modern methods because they're all based on it. They couldn't be any different applications of the same and still be called the same principle if they're still the same principle. But my question to you is there something that you would have to say legitimately can be gotten with Eugene's approach that can't be done really, that loses a little something from the modern approach?
The thing about Eugene's is that if your technique is true, it won't ever fail unless the cards fall off your hand, right? I mean, it will work every single time, and you can't.
More than the
is it too bold to say?
More than
you can't break it,
right? More than the loopy method that people crazy.
That's right.
Right.
And those are all very. You have to have the touch. You have to be able to work with a very light touch, or things break down on you. With that one, you can't break it.
Right. And
so in that sense, it's a bulletproof method.
But in terms of the actual look of the effect, I always get the impression that the classical effect maybe has a hair of added mystery to it in the actual floating. Do you think that's not true?
Well, if you go back to the original method and you go like Al Baker, he's going for as much mystery as he can. Like, one of the best ways that I know of Al Baker doing it is saying, all right, everybody, let's clear out, sitting in the living room, move the coffee table. Let's move these chairs back. Give me the cards. I'm going to get down on the floor. And he spreads the cards out, has the cards selected, put back. He puts it down. He gets back a few feet, starts waving his hands, and the thing cuts itself on the floor. And there's nothing to find. He doesn't even touch the cards again. One card sticking out, it's the selection. Al Baker was going for as much mystery as he could, and Eugene is very much in the vein of Al Baker, and he's trying to make that mysterious thing that I just said happen there, right? And obviously, as you saw, it's very successful.
Yeah, my only question is does going his old school method get you a little bit more mystery in the floating, or not really? Do you feel like in the end? Or the trade-off's not really related?
I think at the end of the day, they're probably very similar in terms of how it's moving. But again, like I said, Eugene's is bulletproof. It's like got a big metal shell around it, and the thing can't break.
So that old method, despite the fact that you got to watch where everyone is and make sure it's right, actually is more durable and less prone to problems in the final analysis.
You set up once for it in the night, and you could probably literally do it for like 8 hours straight before you feel like you need to refresh anything. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's so beautiful. I mean, everything with Eugene, right up to and including the way he's got what appears to be a lovely piece of cloth that matches his waistcoat. In that beautiful small frame, it just looks beautiful. Just looks beautiful, and he's so charming. Anything else you want?
And another note on that. Yeah, one other note on that trick is that it's versatile too, right? You would assume that he could only do that seated at a table. He can do that walk around, surrounded.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a powerful tool. That whole routine is a powerful tool. You can set the stage in a way that you can't otherwise, because you have to be pretty skilled if you're using that other method we were talking about, because you need a place to put those cards and make them move. Are you going to do that on someone's hand? Ooh, that's a pretty big challenge. And by him doing it all one-handed on the back of his hand, he cleans up all the problems. For walk around, it's beautiful.
It's like old Erdnase used to say, right? If feats of card handling could be had for the asking, there would be little in them to profit anyone. And I think when you get dealing with things that are floating, all the floating stuff works probably how people guess. That's the other thing about flotations and animations. If you just had to guess when you watch a magic show, your first guess isn't too far off. So whenever your first guess isn't too far off, the amount of artistry required to bring that method home to its full potential is, I think, pretty significant, right? Because it is work how people think it works. But by the time Eugene finishes that trick, there's no way anyone could possibly think. They just think, oh, it's probably, it's not magnets either. There's no way of investing in your sensible idea because it looks so much like magic.
Right.
That, Lauren, that's called
that's the idea.
That's called the Haunted Pack.
Yeah, Haunted Pack.
And in fact, which of Eugene's books is the best source for it?
I'm pretty sure Spirit Theater. That's like the highlight of that book, is that he has the Haunted Pack in Spirit Theater, that specific handling.
I love it.
And it's pretty wonderful. And it's pretty great.
What was the other thing?
So let's move on to another one. This is another one that's a big shit.
I didn't mean to give you the old snip. If you wanted to say something.
No, it's good. We said a lot about the Haunted Pack, and rightly so, because it's a killer trick. Every time I do close-up magic, some form or another, I'm doing the Haunted Pack. That animation is really tough to beat. And Eugene, when he did it in this setting, he opened with it, which is pretty interesting. I generally save that as a closer because to me it seems like you can't do much more after you move the cards.
I feel like it's the
much
Vernon
more impressive.
It's the straight Vernon close-up room play. It's the cups and balls opener play. Right. It's counter program. Right.
Exactly.
You picture Caps or Vernon doing, which is you take what's the big closer. Let's open with that. And that's the kind of thing that only the Titans we've mentioned, or possibly Jerry Garcia, would do. So bold choice. It's a beautiful thing. What I love about that, of course, is it forces you to counter program your climax as well. If you're going to start with a closer, your ending can be pure impact, but likely it's going to have to come around and hit you sideways. You know what I mean? You're not going to be able to solve that problem the same way. Once you start with a miracle, you know what I mean? We can debate the relative miraculousness of David Copperfield appearing in a elevator. But it's not.
It's a pretty great trick, though.
It's a great trick, but it's not the haunted deck of stage magic. See, stage magic relative to
it's not
the other relative to card magic, close-up card and coin magic. A haunted deck is about as close to a full-blooded illusion as you're ever going to see, right?
Agree with that totally.
All right, let's do the next one.
Well, let's move on to this next. This is a classic amongst close-up folks. This is a classic of Matt Schulian's. And this is really great because you don't ever see anybody do this thing, and Eugene, the master of it.
You take the whole deck of cards, if you would. Spread the cards so the faces are toward you, and take out, not a picture card, take out a number card. Take it right out of the deck. I'll take the deck, you keep the card. And on this side of your card, make a little picture, but it doesn't have to be anything like the Chicago skyline in minute detail or anything of that sort. Okay. I'll take the pen, show them the card, and then put it back. All right. I can do this, believe it or not, 2 ways. You too. About 30% of the time, I do it by reading Mary's mind. But I only tell the good things. And the rest of the time, I cheat. Let's go psychic. My psychic feeling, did you see the card? Okay. It was red and it was a diamond. Is that correct? Bummer. On to cheating. Now, you give the deck a shuffle, and don't feel self-conscious that they're all evaluating your shuffling ability.
I'm not. I'm just going to do it like this then, because
I'll take the deck. Now, answer honestly, is that your card? No. You see, sometimes people actually shuffle their cards to the bottom, and that's pretty impressive. What I'll do is hit the deck with the spoon. And when I do that, your card will actually go to the bottom of the deck, even though The spoons here, just to see if you were watching, are kind of strange. Now, you probably say to yourself, well, yes, but my card is already on the bottom of the deck. But the truth is, it isn't. Name the card out loud.
5 of spades.
Pretty amazing. And there it is, Wonder of Wonders on the...
Oh.
What was the card? Oh, do you know what happened? I hit it too hard. Look, it went right through the tablecloth. Oh. Whoa. Margie, if you reach under the tablecloth, get Mary's card and pass it back to make sure that Mary's name is still on it.
My picture.
Gets me
Her
every
picture.
time.
It's the one.
Dude.
How long was that?
Dude.
How
Huh?
long was that trick? A minute and a half?
2.5 minutes.
One of those most perfect tricks. You know, when you read that Schulian stuff,
Yeah.
when you're a kid, okay? When I say when you're a kid, it substitute wherever you are in magic if you're just encountering this stuff for the first time. When I say I'm a kid, or with kids, I mean when I was a kid, this is what happened to me. You know, Here Comes Kelly is in the Schulian's book. That's the one where, you know, card under glass, right? But in Here Comes Kelly, you I believe you waterfall the cards down over the glass, and it's a rocks glass, and the selection is seen bent around the inside of the rocks glass when that's done. Okay, so you got these card discoveries of Schulian, right? And this is, and you know, inside a matchbook, and this is, of course, another number one example because what a penetration, right? I mean, you've got a signed card penetrating a tablecloth in this incredibly beautiful, incredible, lovely way, right? When you're a kid and someone first, if you're interested in sleight of hand, you first get beaten by like a card under glass, that's a painful, exciting experience. And the idea of being able to steal a card out of the deck, you know what I mean? And while everyone's doesn't know you have, and they're watching the trick, you know, and you getting to the point where you say, your card is under the glass. And I go, it feels like if you can accomplish that, you're going to be the happiest magician in the history of the because your audience
Right.
is going to be so happy. It's going to be the best thing ever. And of course, you can't do it. And you're very painfully aware that you're not able to do it. And you're very slowly, month by month, coming to terms with the fact that when people say it's going to be years of practice, they mean that literally. And it's hard for you to even put that in your mind that you could actually, but you're starting to realize that since you can do so little of this and you clearly want to do it and it clearly can be done, it's going to literally take you years to be able to do this. And then you see stuff like this. And Here Comes Kelly. And you can't do that stuff either. It's just like, it's imagine going to the dim sum restaurant and they bring out the best, most incredible egg roll. And you feel like one day I'll be able to afford this egg roll. But some restaurant. So then at the same time, they wheel out these other Matt Schulian card discoveries. And each one is like the first one, but better. And they all require this entire relationship with cards and the people and magic that is nothing like what you've got developed so far. And it's when you begin to realize that in order to do this magic, your entire relationship with magic, the audience, the cards themselves is going to have to change enough to be considered an evolution to another thing entirely.
That's right. It's some of the hardest stuff ever because it's what I mean, you have to be in tune with them so much that they're looking everywhere they're supposed to look at all moments, so that when you have to get that secret moment, it just goes completely unnoticed. Otherwise, the game is up. And it's very interesting to study all that Schulian stuff. That whole book is full of just, you know, most groundbreaking material, the most direct lines to the method, right? The most direct line to getting the stuff done so that you can focus on just being present and performing. It's wonderful. Wonderful. And I think it should be a part of everyone's education in magic. Matt Schulian is an important player in the close-up world.
Except the problem is, and this is, we don't talk about 3M that often, but it bears discussion in a situation like this. Because if you read the Matt Julian book, it's all very clearly described. He tells you, like Alex says, it's the direct method that
Technique, he tells you what you need.
tells you exactly what to do and when to do it. It's totally great. My point, though, is when he says, for example, look up at the audience, as they're shuffling the cards and doing this, and this moment happens and that moment happens, and you lift this up and you toss that in there and no one sees it. That is a full-blooded misdirective play. If you are super comfortable, if you live and breathe and think in misdirection like a magician who is, call it certified, right? Then it's an easy, simple method. But
Agreed.
It takes for granted the fact that the only people reading it are people who can do it already, or they're kids who can't get there from here. One of the things that made the 3M class makes it so useful and wonderful for people is that for the first time, it starts to give them access to the levers of attention management that eventually make it so that it's easy for you to say, hey, you do that. And, you look over there. Oh, look at that. The tie's under my tie. All that stuff has to happen in a moment, and it has to happen without fear, without God, it just has to happen instantly without thinking about it. And it really means you got to speak misdirection to do it. You have to be living and breathing in a world where the cards are not in the center of your world. The audience and the dynamic between them has got to be where your energy is in order for something like that. And then, of course, the wild thing is, it's a simple thing to do once you have those skills.
And that's like the opposite of what you're led to believe when you first get into magic is that I just need them to look away when I do the secret thing. And you realize the deeper you get into magic, it's controlling every single moment so that when you do the secret thing, you have control over that one too. And that's a different ball of wax.
What did we always say? I always said, and we talk about this in 3M, that you start by trying to make people look away at the secret moment. And I remember, and I write this in class, right? Because I'd be like, okay, now I'm supposed to look up. They're going to look up, and when they look up, all right, are you ready? They'd be like, I'm ready. And I'd be like,
ready?
No one would ever it was very obvious what I was trying.
What's the phrase? That dog won't hunt.
Dog wouldn't hunt. And that's when I began to slowly realize that it only works if you normally are moving at a normal pace. You focus on this and you focus on that, you focus on this, you focus on that, and then you can start to build that thing together. And once you can start to do that, what's beautiful about a trick like this, and this is so important, and we talk about this in 3M again, and the reason I think it's so useful is that you never hear it talked about this way. And when you do talk, you can ask Brian Farley or any of the folks here, it's a real helpful thing to do to separate out structural misdirection, the way Eugene has it built and Julian has it built so that when the audience is shuffling the cards, there's structure there. There's a lot of action that's happening apart from what you're doing with your eyes that is moving the audience where you want it to be, right? So for most of us, we're really good when all the misdirection is required is structural, right? Where we start to have trouble with a lot of these things, and this is how it is with all of the tricks in this class we're talking about, is where you have the combination of structural and what we call attention jacking, moment to moment gaze control by moving your energy in the 5 points of magic from the moments before, up to, during, and away from, in the same kind of unbroken pattern of moving around. So once you've got that stuff going, that's the language of magic, and it's a heck of a versatile language to speak in. And so for those of you who are interested in this kind of stuff, I would say the first thing to do is really, even more than the sleights, right, is to start learning how the misdirection exercises work in real life, and if you need an angle on that you can get into right away, try and find one of my Blue Ray Crossing the Cut blogs or something where we talk about it for for many minutes, and take 3M when we do it again. So I think it's going to be a nice big crowd when we do it again because we missed it last fall. It's hard
Right.
not to talk about that stuff because I just remember, Alex, that these were the card tricks I wanted to do, and they were the card
Right.
tricks that were so clearly not. There was a big skill required, and it wasn't palming the card, especially this one, because as I recall, this one it's more like that's
Right.
just,
I don't think he palms it. I think he might even just drop it.
yeah. I think as I recall, he lifts the thing and throws it, right. But the key is you've got to have such confidence in your misdirection that it wouldn't have mattered if you palmed it. It wouldn't have mattered what you did with it. The key was
That's right.
at that moment, in that exact moment, there was no energy.
There's no heat.
And no memory of it that it ever happened.
That's right. That's right.
That's a video we may watch again sometime.
Yeah, it's a good one. It's a good one.
Look how good.
Well, let's get to the next one here.
I would love to hear that. Eugene Newell, is right. And I kind of, incidentally, Alex, when the trick ended, I wanted to ask you to replay the whole trick, but it seemed rude. I would like to know, can we rewind it to the moment when Eugene asks the folks to shuffle? Maybe a few moments before. Is that too much of an ask?
Let me say this before we do that. This is edited. So you're not going to see what you're looking for.
Oh, it's that part's not there. Not even the line?
Not in the way that you're hoping for.
No.
No.
I just want to hear the line. But if you're saying it's not gonna,
you'll get the line, but there's nothing to see, is my point.
Well, that's okay.
There's nothing to see.
But will we be able to know the pattern of how it's happening when we hear that? Because that's all I want. I don't listen.
Maybe. Do we want to go down that road here?
We don't have to.
Okay.
I'll leave it up to you if you're having a corporate's giving you the decision desk that we are straying from our remit in talking deeply about the moments. I support you.
Yeah, I would prefer to do that in the after show. Why don't we do that there?
All
We'll
right.
save it for there.
Well, then let's do one more piece and then we'll head to the
It doesn't seem wise to let everybody come into our magic club and see, the inner workings of everything.
Friends,
unless they join the club.
If you happen to be watching this and you're not in the magic club, know this. After the show, we pulled down the pants of ourselves and the whole trick, metaphorically speaking. But to the purpose of teaching a very esoteric idea. And it's an important thing to note for all of you watching, no matter where you're watching, that the beauty about the things we're talking about is there's not a chance in hell you could hear a discussion and even see what's happening in this trick and then be at a magician that same day and know when a similar setup is being used on you. You'll never spot it in a billion years. That's why it's worth learning. What's our last piece here, Alex?
All right, let's let me pick the best of what we got here. This is one of my favorite Eugene Berger tricks here. If we're gonna do one more, let's do this. This is great. I'm not even gonna say anything. I'm just gonna let the thing speak for itself because I think it does.
Well,
This
let's
is
do a hard one, Barbara. Okay, hold your left hand palm upward. I'm going to send Barbara a thought. Now, Barbara, to receive a thought requires a lot of imagination, but I know already that you have a good one. So imagine this. Imagine that I could come over to the deck that you're holding, reach in and remove all of the cards of one color. In your imagination, tell me, did I remove the red cards or the black ones? Absolutely right. She's good. Now, that means that you're imagining you're holding a box that contains only black cards, spades and clubs. I want to use one of those suits. You were so good before, I'll send it you mentally. Barbara, shall we use spades or clubs?
Clubs.
Right again. Good. She's good at this. Now, in a deck of cards, there are 13 different clubs. We'll speed this up a bit and eliminate half of them. Barbara, when I snap my fingers, you say high or low.
Hi.
High is eliminated. I think I love you. There's the ace, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 of clubs. I'm going to send Barbara one of those cards, and she's going to get it. You know why I didn't pick you?
Why?
You're going to get the wrong card. How could I know that?
No.
I'm a trained professional. But see what card you got.
Okay.
And see what card you got.
All right.
Ready? Ace, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Ace, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Barbara, what card did you get?
Five.
Really? Oh. Knowing that she got the 5, 2, do you want to change your card?
Sure.
There's always that percentage. Okay, ready? Ace, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Ace, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. What did you get that
I
time?
got seven.
The 7 of clubs. What did you get that time?
I still stuck with
You
five.
stuck with the 5. Now, do you want to keep the 7 or do you want to change it? It's up to you.
I'll keep it.
Let me ask you one more question. Is the 7 of clubs, not spades, the clubs, your favorite card in the deck, or is it just another card you have?
It's just another card.
Believe it or not, Barbara, the 7 of clubs is my favorite card in the deck. And not only that, it is the card I was mentally sending you the whole time. Out of all of these cards, and Barbara got it. Congratulations. It took you 2 times, but you got it. And you cynically don't believe me. I can prove it. See, my favorite card, the 7 of clubs, the card I was sending Barbara, has to do with that. The back of every other card in the deck is red. Barbara, check them out. I'm so glad I didn't pick you.
I love that presentation for that. He's just sending a thought. It's just an idea. I'm gonna plant this idea in your mind before we even start here. And everything is just up to that and playing, right? And then creating that huge conflict with you're gonna get it wrong. That's why I chose her. I think it's one of the great presentations for that, even if you use the standard gaff that everyone knows to do something like that. But notice that when Eugene did that, all of those cards were placed into the hands of the spectators, and he had no care in the world when that occurred. It's pretty bulletproof. I think it's great. I think it's one of the great Eugene Berger tricks.
Absolutely wonderful. It's just wonderful. It's a perfect piece of magic, right? It's real close-up magic.
Yeah, agreed.